again, it's, very important to do. So we'll go ahead and jump right on in. So last week, how many of y'all did y'all assignments? All right.
Okay.
Good.
So the assignment last week was in your notebooks that we gave you all was to write. Husbands were to write what's something that makes you feel disrespected, what is something that makes you feel respected, and wives were to write what is something that makes you feel. Sorry, I'm all over the place. What's something that makes you feel unloved and what makes you feel loved most. And the important thing was to share that with your spouse. And the reason is that you want to share that with your spouse is because a lot of times there's things that you're carrying in your marriage and your spouse doesn't know because you're silent about it. So, yes, those of you may have written it down, but also raise your hand in your mind if you know, because you and your spouse talked about it or you all shared it with each other, what those things are that make you feel loved or respected. If you did not share that with your spouse, then you need to.
Yeah, there's no reason to hold on to that information. You want to make sure that you bring that, to the forefront because, again, like we talked about last week, that's really the crux of the whole matter. You can't solution or work on anything that you don't have awareness of. So it's really important to have those conversations. So,
did anybody want to share anything about that or move on?
So real quick, this is just for the wives. And we have a few in here, but because we know this is a challenging conversation sometimes, and it's good to have group perspective. So wives, if you would type into the poll, what do you consider unloving behavior? And sometimes you may see something that somebody else wrote that resonates with you as well. It's like a good conversation prompt, so. We got one in for the silent treatment. Either way, I think this is a good one to kind of talk on. I know when we were very early married, this was something that it was very natural to do, sometimes where you don't feel quite comfortable about something that was said to you or you feel a certain kind of way about it. And so what you end up doing is just, it's a whole bunch of them coming out. Yeah, okay, all right. But yeah, you just shut down the conversation. So we got being inconsiderate. We got two of them. Inconsideration, excuses as to why you can't be loving, not willing to date. Yeah. I think all of those definitely fall into the category of unloving behavior. Did anyone want to speak to any of those? And you don't have to talk to one that you specifically put in. No one knows what they are. Not willing to compromise. That's another one. Yeah. All right. So we'll go on to the next one. Next one, this one is for the guys here. What do you consider disrespectful behavior?
What y'all got to say? As the brothers are putting that in, my thoughts are, even as I'm sitting here, I'm like, I really want to know which one my husband is putting on the board. That's the one I want to know. There's a couple of things that'll come up, but I want to know the one that my husband's putting on the board so that I can address the thing that makes him feel disrespected from me, so that I could be aware and like be able to capture that and, you know, just grab it. So, and I almost wondered, did the brothers feel the same way? Like, what is the thing that makes my wife feel unloving? So, or feel, what's the thing, yeah, that makes my wife feel unloved, so that I can know how to capture those things. So, there's a lot of things coming up. And not valuing my perspective, attitude, when your wife says what you're going through is insufficient, being cut off mid-sentence. It's a lot of different things that are very specific, okay? And so what's important is not just to, cutting criticism, that's a good one. It's not just to put them in the Slido, but to talk about these things with your spouse, to discuss it, to bring it to the forefront. And we're gonna talk about some strategies on doing that today.
So, moving on to this next part here. So we've heard the negative part, which I feel like we did that intentionally because sometimes it's hard to bring out like, okay, this is the issues that I have, you know, especially in the group forum. We didn't want to put anybody, you know, on the spot or on blast like that. But on the other end of the coin, like, wives, can you tell a time where you felt really loved by your husband? Does anybody want to volunteer? Or maybe while you all are thinking, did you want to share a time where you felt really loved by your husband?
You acting like I got one off the tip of my head. Okay, so I can give a time. This actually happens often. My job, it can be really stressful, and a lot of times, closings, the day of closings for whatever reason is very, very stressful for me. I get really tired. And I remember one of the first times I came home from a closing. Well, first of all, he texted me during the closings like, I'm really proud of you, I'm glad you're doing this, and you know, just keep up the good work, you know, and just this whole thing about, you know, how you were proud of me and whatnot. And then when I got home, even before I get the door, I could smell the Fabuloso. Because he had cleaned up the whole house from top to bottom. I mean, vacuumed, he had the vacuum lines in the carpet, and then like, you know, just mopped and everything. It was just, and then there were, you know, like some scented candles and stuff. Like I walked in, it just felt like a weight off of me just knowing that that was done already. I didn't have to think about it, and that was the time I felt love.
That's good. Anybody else want to share a time? You can hop around with the mic. Just get to see you. Should chance to raise your hand.
Should chance to raise your hand, but you getting this mic though. Bad thing is something real hard. A time where you felt love. This is a really good time to put your husband on the spot and talk about the good things that he's done in public so that people know.
So everybody knows, well, most of my family knows Halloween is one of my favorites. And recently I have been talking about the skeleton that Fred got me a couple years ago. And when he got me that, we were in Hobby, I can't remember, Michael's or something, Marshall's or somewhere. And I was just like raving over the skeleton that I wanted so bad. And he was like, no, we're not getting that. You gotta bring up that Halloween stuff. And so I was like, oh, okay. A couple days later, I came home and the skeleton was at the house. And I was so happy. And that's something, you know, because you know I love Halloween and fall. And so that was special.
Awesome. Good job, Fred.
I was thinking of the time when we were in college, and I think it might have been like around Valentine's or something like that, and had done like this, wasn't really like a scavenger hunt, but he like left a flower on my car, and then it was like, you know, just different, like a card, just, you know, and then I think he got me a gift, a teddy bear that had his voice in it. I still have a teddy bear, but anyhow, just things like that, that was helpful. I think that was probably what Valentine's Day.
Very nice.
That's pretty nice. Pretty nice. Anybody else want to share?
All right, brothers, same thing. Husband, some time where you felt respected by your wife, and be specific about the time.
So I'll start. I got a couple of examples. One of the ones that I feel like is always ongoing. As y'all know, we have a house full of kids, and it can be very rowdy all the time, and especially as the older ones are, really starting to feel themselves and stuff like that. As a husband, as a father, sometimes you get exhausted with like trying to reason with them and everything else. But one of the things that I really truly feel like, Neldra shows me respect with is in those moments, she always correct the kids like right in front of me. And right in front of, in terms of like their behavior towards me. Like specifically towards me, she'll let me know quick, you don't talk to daddy like that. Or boys, hey, why are you still talking when daddy's talking? And all that other kind of stuff. And it's like I know that I need to address them about it, and I do. But, again, it's all like when it's just 24/7, sometimes you just get worn down from it, and so you'll let it lapse. And then of course, they take any opportunity. But I've always felt like that was very, very respectful of me, and I've always appreciated it. The other thing is, while I'm letting you guys get some time to get your mind,
Get your stories together.
Yeah, early on before we had kids, those who know me, y'all know I like to play video games a whole lot. And so there was just this one instance, I don't know how or why, but me and Neldra played this video game from the beginning to the end. And it was just such an amazing experience for me. I mean, she got good with the controls, and I mean, we was just teaming up together, and it's just one of those moments where I feel like she spent the time to know and do something for me. And, because, society really pushes a different narrative. Like, oh, you playing on this game again, waste of time, whatever. But she actually sat with me and, did that. So, brothers, any of you all want to share?
Who's going first is the question.
I remember there was a time where, I was going through something and I brought it to my wife, and I just sat and talked with her, and she just listened. And after she listened, she, reassured me and talked to me and basically spoke life into me. So I feel like that was a time for me where she respected me enough to just listen, take it in, and be able to talk me out of what I was going through.
The Brooks, y'all say.
So I would say the time that my wife had showed respect. I think there's always an itch for me to be an adventurer, right? And so this idea of just staying in one place, sometimes it's very hard for me. And I thought for me, the respect was understanding the hobbies that I enjoy. One of those enjoyments is, going through, taking challenges that require going to hikes. So I think 3 years ago, I went to Mount Washington, and when I was planning, training, and getting prepped to go on this winter hike in the middle of winter, Erica, she supported me. I know my mom, she was like, Keith, why are you gonna do this? Why are you going up 6,000 feet and like that? But those were instances, that's just one instance where, I've gone different things like hiking and whitewater rafting and skydiving, and those things are important to me. And just for her, for Erica, to show support. And I would love for her to do some of those things. She did those early on when she went before
One
kids.
has to live.
But, you know, it's just one of those things for me that allows me to see the joy in life, and I appreciate and be appreciative of it.
That's good.
Awesome.
That's really good. Anybody else want to share?
Awesome, thank you for that. So one of the things that the book brings out, for those of you who are reading it or catching the synopsis, is that men and women fundamentally think of things differently. And the way they describe it is like with pink lenses and pink hearing aids and blue lenses and blue hearing aids. So really, a lot of times we have different mindsets just based on the fact that we're men and women. One of the things that, for example, if we were to say, if someone says, I have nothing to wear, as a woman, what does it mean? When you say, I have nothing to wear, what does that mean?
Just throw it out there.
Just holler it out.
Yeah,
Yeah, just holler it out.
For me, if I say I have nothing to wear, I really am not sure what I want to wear. I have something, I just don't know what it is.
Okay.
Okay, that's a good one. For guys, for the gentlemen. Oh, go ahead, Teresa, sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Similar question for the guys. When we say I have nothing to wear, generally what does that mean? Right. Right. There you go. It's all like, all my clothes are dirty, I ain't got nothing to wear at all.
I'm tired of wearing the same outfit.
Right. But you see how it's like those perspectives are different.
Right.
In one sense, with us, and you know, no perspective is better than the other, but it's just like it's very little. I ain't got nothing to wear. Whereas, you know, on the other side, it's more so like, I don't know what I want to wear. I'm not sure. This is an event. I don't know what I'm supposed to. You know, it's a lot more.
Buy something.
Yeah. Even though I have plenty of clean clothes or something like that, you know, so it's, you know, it's a very real thing. That's a very basic example, but you know, when you all really think about it, how many times have you all encountered a situation or a scenario and y'all saw it two totally different ways? Two totally different ways, right?
Yeah, I'll share a situation. This was actually a major situation and blow up for us at one point in time. And BJ complains a lot. Like, he complains a lot, right? And at this point, you're like, him, this dude? Yeah, does he even talk? Yeah. And when he talks, he's complaining. But a lot of times, at this juncture, he was complaining a lot about me being so busy. You're so busy, you're doing this, you're doing that. And at the time, I was busy. I really am always a busy person. But I took him talking about me being busy as trying to control my life. And I'm like, you are trying to control everything. You're trying to diminish me down into nothing. I'm like, you're trying to make it so that I'm literally doing nothing but sitting here in the house and looking at you, because I quit singing in this band that I was singing with, and then I quit doing this and that, and I'm like, I'm not doing anything else. Like, why are you still complaining about it? And it became a huge blow up, and yeah.
And so I think this is a really great example, right? Because, so like Nelson just said, it was all like, she had been feeling a certain kind of way, like you're complaining about a lot of different things. And your complaining is putting me in the mindset of, I need to take some things off. Now, you know, she just said, I complain pretty much all the time about everything. This particular scenario was Memorial Day. And so those of us who work in corporate, you know that when you have a company holiday, you don't want to do nothing. You do not want to do nothing. This is all like, this is free time. I ain't got to take off from work. You know, all of these things are taken care of. And so I think our neighbors had something going on. And I was just all like, I really don't want to go. We're always doing something. I just want to sit here and play my game. or do something else. But I didn't have all of this other backstory and history to consider that, okay, this may be deeper than what I thought. So when she brought it up and it turned into this big blow up thing, I was completely off guard. I was like, what? How did we even get here? I don't even understand, like, what are we fighting about? I just don't want to go over there and have a barbecue. I'm good. I don't need to do this, you know?
Yeah, I was like, you're controlling my life, you're ruining my life.
Yeah, but you see, like, because that was not fully communicated and conveyed, that turned into something else that it really should have never even turned into. You know, at the end of the day, you know, you have to be able to understand what your person is saying, and she needs to understand what you're saying. And again, also keeping in mind that we have two totally different perspectives and two totally different thoughts and stuff like that. And so, yeah, so the author, he had this one scenario that he painted for us. And it was a couple, the husband, he was out of town, and he was coming back into town after being gone for a week from a business trip. And so, like most men, you know, you coming home, you've been gone for a while, you know, your mind is immediately like, oh, where's my wife at? You know, it's time for us to be intimate. This is what I'm looking forward to. You know, we've been gone all this time. Let's get the ball rolling here. And so he's all excited. He's already at 10. He gets home, and his wife looks at him when he comes through the door, and she's all like, hey, you're home early. And then, you know, so that was like his first shock. Y'all like, oh gosh, you know, I thought you would have been running at the door and just, you know, just
Jumping on me.
Right, huge passion move or something like that. And so then she just goes through the exhaustive list of everything that needs to go on. She's all like, okay, since you're here, we gotta go to this, we got a parent-teacher conference. Oh, I need to tell you about what Billy did today at school. We got all of these other things. Also, dinner is not gonna be made tonight because I got this other activity going on. And, you know, he was just like, you know, again, in his mindset, he's all like, you know, he's trying to get close. And she's all like, oh, great, you're here. You can finally help out and, you know, kind of get into place and stuff like that. And so, obviously, as the day went on, he got more and more upset. And she noticed that he was upset, and she took offense to him. Because she's all like, you've been gone. You've been out working, playing, whatever, and now you're here, and you're acting like this. I'm all like, jump in, get into place. We got stuff going on here. And so by the end of the night, you know, at the last ditch effort, you know, he kind of reaches over and try to, you know, start rubbing her back. And she's all like, no, I'm just too tired. And then he just rolls on over angrily, and she's just all like, you know, you can be really insensitive. And so, and then it just spirals out of control there. But I brought up that story to show it's all like, again, two totally different ways to look at something. And because of that miscommunication, or in this case, lack of communication, now you're on what we call the crazy cycle, which is what we're going to get to next. So, any thoughts on that? Any comments?
That whole situation probably could have been dead earlier if they would have been paying attention to each other. If they would have asked each other, you know, what is it that you need? It could have been resolved earlier.
Yeah.
But the fact that they allowed it to go on, it even was showing up in their bedroom.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to be able to eliminate that situation as quick as possible so that it doesn't last throughout the whole day.
Oh, yeah. And you bring up a good point there, you know, because they didn't communicate. I think the other part of it is, we'll talk about this a little bit later on, who's going to make the first move? Somebody has to say, okay, I know I'm tired, and I've been exhausted dealing with all these kids all week. And the husband, from his perspective, I've been at this conference or this business trip, and I'm just shocked. I'm ready to, you know, whatever. Somebody has to be able to make the first move and say, you know what, I'm going to sacrifice for my spouse, right?
I'll give another story real quick from the text. So there was a husband and wife, and the husband consistently forgot their anniversary. Years and years and years, consistently forgot their anniversary. And they finally got to their 10th anniversary. He was like in the CVS pharmacy, drugstore. He was like, oh, today's our anniversary, that's right. And he picks up a card, right? And takes it home. He's all excited about himself for the 10-year anniversary with his CVS card, just saying. And he signs the card, and he's just proud of himself. He's like, I did it, finally, she's gonna be happy about this. And he goes home, and he gives her the card. She was already in her mind, like, he's gonna forget, and I know it. But he gives her the card, and she's like, oh, he didn't forget. She opens the card up, and then her face drops, and he's looking like, well, what's that about? And she says, thank you. He was like, what, you don't like the card? She's like, well, it's nice for a birthday card. He was like, wait, no, you gotta be kidding me. And he looks at it and it's like, happy birthday. And she's like, you know what, you just insensitive, you're a doofus, like you really don't care about me. If this was the Knicks game, you would have made sure you purchased the correct seats and you would have did that exactly to the T. But when it comes to me, you don't even think about me enough to do this correctly and to pay attention to the details. So you know what, forget you and forget this card. And he was all like, you know what? Because you acting like that, I'm glad I got you a birthday card. And then they went into they went to different rooms, slammed the door and everything. So, same situation, you know, how that could have been different. First of all, the husband really could have done a better job. I'm like, we're not gonna slide past that. We're like, you really, come on, get to do more better. You just got to do better than that. But also, when someone is just so bad at being loving, you got to give grace. Even when it's just like, it's still not good, you gotta give more grace. Because I think about that like as a teacher. You know, like when I'm teaching little kids and my students, like they start off really dumb, you know? And like that, like, dang, dumb. Yes, dumb. They start off really dumb. And what I do is by the time they're at the end of the year, most of my students are placed in advanced math, right? How does that work? Because it's the little things that I praise them for. And in your marriage also, when you're dealing with love and respect, you have to praise them for the little things. You have to search out. I'm like, oh my gosh, little Timmy, this is amazing. You did 1 + 3 and you got 4. Oh, and I'm talking about 8th graders. And I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. You are smart. This is, you are made of mental awareness. And I say these things and it builds up little by little. And you have to do those things in your marriage. So even when it's just like the littlest tiny thing, you're like, wow, babe, thank you. You opened the door for me. I'm feeling like a lady, okay? You know, and then it's like, okay, you know what? You let me get that sentence out without interrupting. Girl, you're doing a good job. And you're like, oh, okay, I didn't know. You know, so.
Yeah, I mean, you know, last thing on this is just to be sure, you know, understand that we are already individuals as is, but just as men and women, we have very different ways of looking at stuff. And you have to have that awareness in order to be able to effectively communicate better. And so, I just want to make sure that we really drive that point here because it's really important in order to get better. And, you know, yeah. And so, just moving on to the crazy cycle, you know, we brought this up last week about how this stuff starts. And it starts the exact same way. You know, the husband feels disrespected, and so he responds in an unloving manner. And then the wife feels unloved, and she responds in a disrespectful manner. One of the two is going to be the first one, right? And so it's important to understand, like, this is a feedback loop that just continues to go and go, and really it just drills down. It just keeps getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And you want to make sure that you're aware of it. When you can see something, like how we always talk about as Christians, you see the enemy, now you can actually fight against him. Now you know exactly what to pray for. Now you know, okay, let me get myself together. I see that he's coming after me. This is the exact same thing. It's all like, you know what? I feel disrespected, and I can tell she's probably feeling unloved. Let's somebody, and when I say somebody, you, I always put this back on to you as a person, to you, to whoever. Whoever identifies and sees that you are on this crazy cycle, you have to take the responsibility to say, let me find a way to get out of this.
I would even go as far as say, this is one of the areas that BJ is an amazing leader in our family and in our marriage. I think whoever identifies himself as a leader has to lead your spouse off of this vehicle. I don't think that I am, am I the talker? Yes. Am I the planner? Yes. Am I the visionary? Yes. In our marriage, those things are all true. But he is the, hands down, leader of this marriage. This is why we have the marriage that we have, because he has the ability that when we're on this crazy cycle to lead us out. And sometimes that leading us out is when I am responding disrespectfully, then he takes my hand in a gentle way and like, listen, you need to stop. Listen, this is inappropriate. And literally looking me in my face and say, no, that's not how this is gonna go. And if you respect me as your husband, you're not gonna be offended. And these are things that he had to teach me through his leadership. And so, a lot of times I feel like, especially in like today's day and age, men feel like, I don't wanna say helpless, but they feel like women are like, that kind of thing. And whereas that's true, the Bible says that husbands deal with your wives as if they are the weaker vessel. And we are. And I'm thankful that he notices that of me, that I am the weaker vessel. So that when I'm acting crazy and I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, he leads me down the path of righteousness. He leads me down that path. How does the crazy cycle typically start? We have a couple of things from the book, and escalation by tone, just your tone. Sarcasm, eye rolling, clipped words, talking sharp, shutting down. Listen, see, because you, and raising your voice, being defensive. No, that's not me. I did not do that. Yes, I did. You did not. And being defensive instead of finding a spot to listen. You don't have to defend yourself when you're not in a fight. And your spouse is not the enemy. So when you're talking to someone who is not the enemy, you don't have to be what you do so.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that?
Yes.
I would say this, whoever it is, because everybody got different personality traits, right? Everybody does. The thing is like, one of the things that Nelson said is very key. You have to understand that, you're not in a battle with each other. This isn't about winning with each other. I think the author said this, in one of the parts of the book where he saw like, you could be absolutely right. You could be absolutely right at the top of your lungs, but wrong in the way that you deliver it. Go ahead, Gary.
Oh no, you finish.
Oh no, that was good.
I was just saying, I was reading the book last night.
Sorry.
And they were giving examples about the scripture where it's talking about husbands love their wives, and basically wives respecting their husbands. And I forget the specific scriptures, but it was just talking about how essentially women have an innate ability to love, and that's one of the reasons why it's not necessarily directed at the wife. And then I was thinking, I was like, okay, so when the Bible is giving the example, he always gives the husband an example of how to love, because it's not innate in them.
That's right.
It's like, love your wife as yourself, or love your wife as Christ loved the church. And I'm like, when I'm looking at that, I'm like, each thing has an example. And a lot of times for me, that we come up with different excuses as to why we can't do this, but sometimes it really is just that simple. If you care about yourself and you love yourself, you're out here, doing certain things. I'm gonna get healthy, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. You also have to, it has to translate. And if it's not translating, then the other person can't receive it regardless of, because the example is not necessarily being seen, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's very good. Anybody else?
Yeah, I just want to say, one thing that has constantly been on my mind is leadership. Okay? Having the proper leadership. And I think that both parties, men and women, both have leadership capabilities that they should exemplify. You know, one of the things that has just even recently is that if I see something and I make a correction to it, I do it gracefully. A lot of times what bothers me is that when I get these excuses, well, I did it because of this, that, and that. Well, sometimes it's okay, but when it's continuously, that comes with pride. And sometimes my expectation is for you to just say, okay, and do it gracefully, instead of okay with the attitude behind it. So, you know, you do whatever you can to stop that cycle. It takes both people, and you do have to lead one another because we both are consistent strengths and weaknesses. And we have to identify with what those are so that we can lead each other through them and past them. So that's what I want to share.
That's a really good point. I think the thing is, you know, I wrote this down. Being the person who's like the one who's gonna identify that we're on a crazy cycle and I wanna get off of this, it requires a lot of vulnerability. It requires a lot of consistent vulnerability. Because like you just said, you know, if we've been doing things a certain kind of way where, you know, I bring something up, the immediate response is a defensive posture, you know, it takes a long time to break old habits. It takes a long time to break things that are within us that we haven't resolved, right? And so what I would say is to everybody in here, you have to be willing to put yourself out there and see nothing happen for the first umpteen times. You know, it definitely may not happen the first time. It's gonna feel a little bit awkward. It's gonna be all like, why am I doing this? It feels silly. You know, I'm still showing loving behavior, but yet I'm being disrespected and vice versa. You know, I'm showing respectful behavior and I'm still getting, you know, very unloving behavior. It takes a long time.
It does.
But the thing, but the thing is, it's all like, what else do you have besides time? You know, I'm all like, when you married, that's like, oh, this is your person. It's the person that, you know, God brought you together with, and you all are moving through life together. The, you know, results of it may not be immediate. I mean, we just talked about it last class, you know, the marriage, all of us, the time we went out and married. I don't know about you all, but I feel like it feels very short. It's all like, dang, we already at year 17, we're already at year 19, we're already at year 2. I'm all like, we just got together just yesterday, you know, and it's like we're already in this space. And so I would just say that don't grow weary if you're the one who's all like, I am going to make a change so that we can get better. Eventually, the other person's going to come along. And that's biblical. I don't have a particular scripture right now, but we all know, what was it? Yeah, about how, you know, the wife can win over her husband by her behaviors, right? It's the exact same thing for us. Sometimes we just have to be the one, I don't want to say to take it, but again, like Neil just said, lead through it. And eventually your partner will be all like, okay, you know what? Maybe I do need to be a little bit more respectful or a little bit more loving, you know, and stuff like that in order to follow suit. Because nobody inherently wants to be nasty to other people, right?
And it hurts to be on this crazy cycle. It hurts your marriage, it hurts yourself to be on a crazy cycle. But it is also painful to get off. Because you assume a risk of being hurt. You assume a risk of your spouse not responding the way you want them to respond. And that hurts. And it feels like being naked and exposed and someone's still taking shots at you. That's what vulnerability is. It's like being naked, like Adam and Eve were naked in the garden. And they were exposed. That's how God wants us to be with our spouses, is this exposure where there's just like this full nudity, but emotionally. And that's really hard. It's still really hard. And I was telling Keith last week, I caused damage in my marriage by my behavior to my husband. And one day I popped up and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna stop acting like this. I'm gonna stop being mean and this and that. And I told BJ this, and I was like, I know I don't act right a lot of times, so I'm gonna act right from here on out. And I meant it. But he was used to me snapping, and if he gets something wrong, I'm like, you did this wrong, and why aren't you here? And all of this stuff all the time. And he was used to that. So, even though I had purpose in my heart that I literally repented, and when I tell y'all I repented, I'm fully aware of this behavior and of myself. But he is still, this was like a couple of years ago where I made this change, he still puts his dukes up. Even though I have consistently been doing the correct, respectful behavior, when he does something wrong, he's like, hey, I did this thing wrong. Oh, are we good? Do I get offended? No. I put us here. I understand that my behavior, my consistent behavior of snapping and rolling my eyes and like this look of content, like this whole thing that I was giving him, that was consistent. That's what's embedded. He's there. It's gonna take some time, but that's okay. It's okay for me. I know what I did, and I know I gotta be patient. He has to be patient with me. I have to be patient with him. That's just my vulnerability to y'all. So.
How do you, so say for instance, how do you get to a point if there's, say there's a situation that I consistently done to put my wife in a position to put her do so. What if I don't see that? What if she's putting her do so? But I don't see why she's putting her do so. All I see is, why you putting your do so at me? I didn't do nothing wrong. But she's prepared for something that she's used to from me, but I don't see that.
Do you see her response?
Yes, you see her response.
So the response is the dukes. The response is the dukes up. So then that's a really good question. That's where you come in and say, why are you responding this way? But not in a way that's attacking. Because if you're attacking, you want to come in with the posture of, I see there's something wrong, and let's flesh it out. Not, there's something wrong with me. This is my personal thing. So you say, you take yourself out of your body, and I see there's something wrong. Why are you responding that way? Well, I responded this way because Okay. Help me to understand why you feel the way that you feel about it. And so, but you do it with sincerity, and then you all have to make a pact that I won't be offended. That's what I do with him. That's what we do with each other. I'm like, sometimes he say stuff, I be like, oh! but I'm like, I have to make a pact. I'm like, okay, pull back. I will not be offended. I will not be offended. And then when you say you will not be offended, you will not be offended. At our house, we don't have a lot of hot water. Our showers are not hot. They never are. And I hate taking showers. I hate taking showers anyways, but I really hate taking showers in cold water. But the other day I said to myself, I'm going to take the coldest shower I most possibly can take, because cold showers make me feel powerful. That's what I just said to myself in my mind. And I went into the shower, and surely enough, it was cold. But this time, I was like, I'm becoming more powerful. I am becoming more powerful. This cold shower is everything, because I changed my mindset. And then I said, oh, and it didn't feel so bad. Then I said, you know what? Cold air invigorates me, and it makes me taller. So I stepped out of the shower with no towel. I was like, I'm taller, I'm invigorated. Because really, a lot of this stuff is your mindset. It's the way you decide to think about even the bad situation. So if you say, I will not be offended, I will not be offended, this person is not trying to hurt me. When you go into a situation, it actually makes it better. We are gonna close out.
Pretty much are out of time. We don't have homework for this week, but I will definitely implore all of you all, try to identify when you see that you're about to get on a crazy cycle. try to really look for that. You know, keep your eyes open. And y'all like, you know what, I feel disrespected. I know I feel disrespected. What can I do to make it so that I don't display unloving behavior? And the same thing with the wives. You feel unloved, y'all like, I really don't feel the love right now. I really feel like I want to go ahead and, you know, cut them with this sharp criticism, this disrespect, but I want to withhold that. Try to really identify that, and we'll talk more about it next Sunday. With that, Fred, you mind praying something? Oh. That's right, we gonna pray over something. My bad. All right, so as y'all